All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. We're glad you're here. I'm Karen Houghton. I'm the CEO and I'm an investment advisor at Infinite Giving. So we want to thank you for joining us for today's conversation, which is unlocking generosity and financial resilience in ministry. So whether you're leading a church, a synagogue, a school, a faith-based nonprofit, or really a ministry of any kind, this space is for you. So today, one of the things we're going to be talking about is really first a little bit about who we are. Infinite Giving is a financial partner for nonprofits, and we exist to serve organizations just like yours. So we help ministries simplify and strengthen financial stewardship, from accepting non-cash gifts like stock and crypto to investing reserves and other long-term strategies for sustainability and generosity. We know that money isn't the mission, but now that how you manage it can either limit or multiply your impact. So today we are bringing together two of our favorite faith leaders to help unpack some of these things, such as creating a culture and processes where vision and finances align, how to lead financially without fear or fatigue, aligning your role with responsibilities to maximize your financial resources, and of course, developing those opportunities where we can find that capital and we can start to build our reserves. Our panelists today is Thomas Kincaid and Brad Leeper, two incredible ministry leaders who bring deep experience to this conversation. Thomas, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone?
So thanks, Karen. It's great to be here. Great to be with everybody. Great to be with Brad as well. I'm Thomas Kincaid. I'm a priest in the Episcopal Diocese of Dallas. Spent 20 years leading churches and church institutions across the Episcopal Church and in some other contexts as well. Currently, you can tell by the clothes, not an Episcopal priest is my day job. I work for a family office in Dallas. We both for a foundation where we give away a significant chunk of the family's capital, and also in an early stage investment firm trying to solve big social problems. It's great to be here.
Great. Thanks, Thomas. And how about you, Brad?
Wow, get to solve big social problems. That's fun. I'd love to just to keep digging deeper into that, Thomas. Fun. My name is Brad. I've had the privilege of working for about 24 years now with schools, ministry organizations, churches that answers the question, how do we pay for this? And not just how do we pay for this from an immediate problem solving perspective, but how do we build a long-term culture of giving to abundantly fund the mission?
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have both of you today. So for everybody watching, what we're going to do is guide a conversation with both Thomas and Brad. And then we also have Q&A opportunities. So as you think of questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A box as we go. And I'll keep an eye on those. And either we'll do them in real time, or we can also make sure that we will leave some opportunity at the end to make sure we get through your questions. We're also recording this session and we'll resend you the replay. So don't worry if you need to step away or want to share it with your team afterwards. We'll be sure to send that to you. All right. Well, it's going to be over to you guys. So we've got some fun questions. Just starting out, first question, faith-based organizations often say they may have a vision problem. But many times it's a financial ceiling, not always a vision ceiling. Sometimes it's self-inflicted. How can leaders discern the difference? And what do you all think we should do about that? Just a light question to start us off.
Go for it, Brad.
I was going to say, you go for it. And we'll jump with that. Karen, excellent question. Oftentimes, either heads of school or chief executive officers of an organization are limited by the finances, and that's a place that's certainly overcomable. Part of of the concept today is you can have an abundance of finances coupled with the vision. So many organizations don't have a vision problem; they just have a funding problem. So if a discernment piece of all that is do we know where we're going, but are we not getting there because of money? And a question I always ask my clients is, if you got $1 million, what would you do with it? Most, well, actually, it is surprising. Most often the answer is don't know. Like, I wish I had that problem, or let me struggle that through. They don't have an immediate answer to that. So oftentimes that's more of a vision problem, where we don't really know where we're going. But when a good leader says, can articulate the vision and how he or she would use those dollars, then that's more of a funding ceiling.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd really agree with what Brad and build on what he talks about. I mean, I think that when you can begin to understand that that it really is a funding setting, when you've got people who are fully bought in, fully believing, who are wanting to participate financially, but just simply those people don't have the capacity, then that's a funding problem. You say, okay, great, we've got our movement, we got our people. Often, what I encounter is folks who are just relentlessly beating that drum on the funding side, but not really developing those partnerships. And when you have those, when you kind of are doing that, it's like, hey, I've got this vision, I've got this dream, but I haven't found the people that really are excited. I haven't been able to build those relationships. We'll talk about that a little bit more going on. But I think that for me, the question is always going to be like, hey, are you building relationships, or are you simply trying to raise money? And those two things will begin to affect whether or not it's a vision problem or a financial problem. Because if it's a vision problem, you're going to, in my experience, you'll have a lot harder time developing those relationships. If you've got the vision, then there are going to be folks who want to be with you. And then it's just about finding people with capacity.
I bet people are listening to this and they're like, no, 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 I've got lots of vision. It is a financial ceiling. What would you tell them?
Yeah, I think so I made Brad go first. I mean, I would say, look, it very well may be. But my question then, because if it's really just about blocking and tackling on on raising more money, that's a separate set of questions. But part of having that vision is, are other people a part of that vision? Do they own that vision? Do they sense it's their vision and their mission? Or are they kind of like, hey, whatever you want to go do, Thomas, that's great. I'm thrilled for you, but like I'm not really a part of it. That to me is what says that, hey, having a vision isn't enough. You've got to get other people into the vision with it.
It's as Thomas began to take us as a relationship conversation or relationship skills that many CEOs and heads of schools don't have training or awareness of. This is how you go do this. It's not making the ask 24 hours a day. It's building the relationship and earning the right to take people through a process of different stages of engagement with the organization. These are not original to me, but there's the initial awareness of the organization. There's people that are curious, they're interested, they start to get smaller gifts or beginning to engage with your content or the vision. Then at some point they have a connection where they will give, usually at a slower starting level. They begin to have that sense of connection or engagement. But as Thomas has used the key word a couple times now, moving them into that ownership and partnership level is an entirely different skill set. And many CEOs, Karen, hit the financial ceiling because they don't know how to go build those relationships. It's a whole lot easier than you think. A key component here as well, Karen, is your vision is important to you. You get it. You're leading the organization. You wake up thinking about it, meaning payroll. How do we pay for the building? How do we do next? People don't have that same ownership. There are a lot of visions, competing visions out there. Left to your own devices, your vision is a commodity, although you think it's unique and very much passionate around your heart and mind. Until you can move that giver, that donor, from seeing your organization as one among many to one that they want to prioritize, one that they want to have that. I just had a conversation with a couple last week who they're saying, we want to find the place that we're going to give for the next 10 years and make it our legacy giving. We
Mhm.
want to leave a footprint here. And they're looking for an organization that aligns with their heart, that they want to park their priority giving. So how do you move into those relationships to where they become a partner and a shared owner with your unique vision?
Which
Yeah,
really,
and I want to go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Karen.
Thomas. Yeah, no, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
mean, I want to say like it's easy for Brad and I and Karen to say like, this is how you do it. But like there the real question here is like how do you move to what I used to call top of wallet position, which is a weird comes out of the credit card industry. Most people have 3 to 5, but they have one or maybe two that they use for everything, right? And they're the ones making all the other money. The other accounts are costing those credit card companies more than they're making off of it. When we did our tax return, the Kincaid family did our tax return last year, I was like, oh my gosh, like this, we aren't super generous people. There were like a dozen charitable organizations on there. I was like, I don't even remember most of these things, right? Just being totally candid, right? There were somebody who asked me, and like, what? Great, happy to do that. Those weren't meaningful. Where you want to get is to find those people who will put you in that top of wallet position. Because I thought I had two. Right, like I added two. That's where we're doing most of our giving, and that's why most people, most givers are operating and saying, "Hey, there are some places like Brad talked about with that couple that I want to be a part of this." Right, and that's the key to get there. And that's not. So I'm sure everyone's who's listening is like, "Well, I'd love that. Wouldn't that be great?" We can talk about some of the ways that those things come about and some of the necessary tools from a financial standpoint you have to have in your toolkit to be able to make that happen. And we'll get to that soon. But I mean, I think it is just important to think about how can I develop and find the people who are going to be in that, put me in that spot with them.
Which really is that shift, like talking about, hey, we're going from a budget management and a bottom line of, hey, we have to bring in this to do this, to really a heart aligned partnership. And that shift can really change your organization's financial health. So how do we really start shifting? I know you guys have talked about it, but how do we get from that budget management to heart aligned partnerships?
Yeah, I keep jumping in, but Brad's staring at me, so I'm going to go, and then Brad can go. Here's the. I mean, look, this is what I used to tell people when I was raising money for 20 years. What I said all the time is, God is going to get what God wants. Like the success of God's vision in the world is not up for grabs, and is certainly not up to a donor's decision. That is not how God works. Okay, right, folks that do try and raise money off of like, hey, God needs you. God does not need you. Okay, like that's not how who God is, but what the awesome gift is that God says, you can come participate in what I'm doing. I'm doing this great thing in the world through all these organizations that are online today and a whole bunch of others. And donors, you get to come and be a part of that conversation, right? I mean, be a part of that work through your generosity. Um, that to me, yes, you can kind of redline your fundraising. You can get a lot by sending out the, oh my gosh, we have to have X right now letter, right? You can get a bump out of that, but long term, that's going to be really, really hard to sustain. You're going to have to keep that urgency up. The other scenario here is to say, no, this God is doing an awesome thing. And if you'd like to, you get to be a part of it. In my experience, that opens up a lot more um, generosity and a lot more of that partnership.
There are three key mindsets I find, Karen, in the head of school or CEO. Yeah, one is this is part of my role. It's not a tag on of, okay, I got to once a month send out a newsletter. This is a significant portion of somebody's time to build relationships. Picked up a data point where uh, donors who give $1 million or more, 73% said it was because of the relationship with the leader. It wasn't the vision, it was the relationship with the leader. In that relationship, you get to embody the vision, you get to feel the trust, you get to feel the authenticity of the leader and the organization. But it's a mindset of the CEO to say, I get to do this. I get to go
Mhm.
engage and get to know people and invite them into this process. And Thomas, you're very much alluding to this. This is fun. You get to do this. You get to invite people into this deep passion and heart engagement where you already are. And if that doesn't light up some energy for you, put your resume out there and go someplace else. So one is a mindset. Number two is a process of how do you keep track with that? I'm coaching an organizational leader now to where the leader has the passion and he is absolutely reorganizing his weekly schedule to do more donor engagement and uh, getting to know donors. But there's a systems and a process that needs to undergird that. There are plenty of software packages out there for that, but it's understanding this is somebody's birthday, or I want to drop a text today, hey, thinking about you and praying for you over your kid's wedding, or whatever the storyline is. It's building these rhythms personally and organizationally so that you're connecting and not, oh my gosh, it's been 6 weeks since I've had a giver conversation. I better hustle and get stuff done. So it's a mindset. It's a process. Number two, and number three, it's human. You're curious about people. You're always asking. So, what was the vacation like? Why was that a highlight? You said that was great for your marriage. Why? Or what? And you're in any when I coach leaders of organizations, it's roughly if you're talking more than 20% of the time, you don't get it. You're innately curious about who are you and what's your family like, and you're not being manipulative around that. It needs to be heartfelt and pure motivation within that. But you get to go build human relationships, and that is where people say, I trust you, I get it, I feel it, I become an owner, a partner, as Thomas has alluded to, and it takes time and human connection to build all that. So mindset, processes, and understanding this relationship at its core.
So much of it is relationship focused, right? And when you're fundraising and you're earning the trust and you're sharing that vision, I know for a lot of nonprofit leaders, it's but how do we scale that? We only have so much time in the day, and I'm only one person, or you have a team. And then how is it scalable to be so intentional about building into these relationships that ideally they can get that couple where they're like, hey, we want over the next 10 years, we want to do these big gifts and have it be our legacy. How do they do that at scale?
Hmm. I've had that conversation twice already today. So I'm warmed up, and then Thomas
That was not
can
a
refine it.
pre-planned question, but yeah, I'm sure it's common. So what do you recommend?
It is. First, I start with what's the wiring of the leader?
Hmm.
Remotely extrovert, introverted, how much board backing do they have? It's very much, Karen, understanding what's the starting point. And some have sometimes I got to pump the brakes for a leader to go, no, you're going way too fast. You're being obnoxious here. Not very often, but sometimes it's pump the brakes. Other times it's who are you? What's your wiring? For example, one leader was thrilled to understand that he could use his hobby as part of a donor development process. You get 4 hours with somebody in a round of golf, and you're a good golfer. That's fun, but it's life giving. I had know a leader who used at the turn. He's always swapped partners in the golf cart because he had more time to talk between shots. Like, whoa, man, I can do this as part of the life. So you start with what's the wiring of the leader, and then craft a plan that goes with that. Size of organization goes to this as well. I would say Thomas, top 25 givers, no more than that, probably need to have a dedicated relationship with the CEO. And then beyond that, it's using technology. It's one-on-one for a certain number, and then one on some. And then it's using systems and processes to engage more with the masses. But part of it is where is the organization at $250,000 a year, or is it 2 million a year? I'm with a new client next week. It's a $50 million vision over the next 5 years, and we're starting from ground zero. Well, that's a whole different starting point than a conversation I had earlier today. It's about a $2 million organization. So you start and frame it around the CEOs or the head of school, whatever personality and capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to build on what Brad said, what I think it's really important here is that this has to be authentic. Look, to back to your question, there are easier and harder places on the org growth chart curve to do this, to be sure, right? There's certain size of organizations you get to, you don't have the staff yet, you don't have the bandwidth, and yet you need to be doing more. It's a hard season and a hard place, and hire somebody like Brad to help you push over the hump there on that. But I think that the real Brad hit the nail on the head. This is for a leader who's responsible for revenue generation, right? This is not a side part of their job. It's not a something they have to do because, gosh, it's got to get done and no one likes it. It's got to be core to, it's building the movement. It's getting those partners. It's getting people excited about it. And to Brad's really important point, using the gifts you've already got, right? Like nobody wants to play golf with me. It's going to be it's going to take forever and not be fun. I enjoy golf, but they will not enjoy it with me. But there are things that I enjoy doing and saying, hey, we can go do this together, right? I mean, I had a key donor that, had this one concert every year. We did it every year. It was great. It was a blast, right? And I wasn't there asking for money. It was a genuine. I enjoyed this human. I enjoyed what we were doing together, and that built that relationship over time and enabled to say when it became time, like, hey, actually, we could use your help in a way that I think might be interest to you. That was a those become very natural conversations. It becomes as normal as talking to anybody else about, hey, actually, there's a way you could be a part of this if because I know you well and you know me well, and I think you'd find this interesting.
Yeah. What percentage of the work week do you guys think should actually be spent on development?
I have an answer I'd like to say and an actual answer. Uh,
Yeah, give us both. Give us both.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
you're
you can,
talking.
yeah.
Go ahead,
I
Thomas.
mean,
Go ahead.
look, you can put a number on it, and it depends. And my real answer is gonna sound silly because it becomes what is development. I, I don't know a leader who's a successful fundraiser who's not doing that all the time, is my actual answer. If you want to know my actual answer is like, hey, and it's not that I'm out like, I mean, we all have the friends who are in nonprofit who are like, you can't have them over to dinner anymore because they're going to ask the other dinner guests for a gift, and you're like, whoa, like that was not what this was about. We were just hanging out, but the good leader in this is just always in a place of like, I'm excited about what I'm doing, and I'm excited about what our organization is doing, and I would love to share that with anyone who it naturally makes sense to share it with, right? And so yes, there are some intentional things you should be doing. You should assign a percentage of your time on that to those things, but it really should be something that is organic. I mean, that comes up kind of from inside of you, right? From right here, that you're like, this is just, I'm excited about who we are and what we're doing, and I think people might really enjoy being a part of it.
I'll
Brad.
go with technical answer and then affirm what Thomas is saying here. When I start coaching, it's 25% of your time minimum on figuring this out. But it's not asking 25% of the time or creating a newsletter or an email or a direct mail piece. It's you are thinking, you're having lunches, you're having breakfast, you're playing the golf thing, whatever it is that you're doing. That's part of the natural rhythm of who you are as a leader and as a person. As a leader matures in all this and finds their sweet spot and finds their rhythm, it gets to be 50 or percent more. But here's, Karen, the gift that comes with that. The more this becomes organic and authentic, the more you get to do ministry, the
Mhm.
more you get to see your vision fulfilled. I learned very, very quickly. I started as an undergrad. I had to raise support for an organization for whom I worked. And I quickly figured out you do more ministry from a position of financial strength than from a position of financial weakness. The multiplication, the exponential impact of having finances that allow you to do the ministry, wow, that's way life giving. So once a leader figures out that this whole giver development, donor development, my leadership style, whatever that turns out to be within the gift mix, not only is it fun and life giving, but you have more financial resources and you achieve a greater percentage of your dream. which is not a bad place to be.
Not at all. Which let's go ahead and move into a little bit more of those finance kind of questions. I know, what would you all say? So, some of the financial patterns or decisions that maybe you've seen that have unintentionally limited a ministry's growth.
I mean, I already mentioned this a little bit, but I would say leading with need over vision. It is so tempting. I mean, um, I'm old enough that I remember when gifts were not done by EFT. You had to get someone to fill out a check and give it to you, and that meant that in Texas, after generously the 4th of July, if not Memorial Day, until Labor Day, like there ain't nobody here with those kinds of resources, right? And so you just watch your operating account just just drip down on this thing, right? So I understand the temptation to say, gosh, I could send out this, and I know if I tell people of this immediate need, I know there'll be a response. And I'll tell you, there will be. There, the first time you will you'll get there, but it's like running. It's like if you were running the whole of whatever this your nonprofit's going to do on a gimmick, right? Like, I mean, it's just a constant. You have to keep coming up with a new set of urgency, and over time, it doesn't pay out long term, right? And so whether you say again, like, hey, I can put this out here in front of you. Similarly, guilt-based fundraising and that sort of thing. Like, I can't believe this is still stuff that's out there, but it is. They're kind of like, oh my gosh, this thing, like, it's just awful, and you have all this, and like again, you can get a gift out of that. Can you get a partner out of that? Not in my experience.
Mhm. You can do the same amount of work and get much bigger checks or much bigger gifts. I'm often amused where, hey, for the next month, we're planning for our gala. And you do the gala and you net out $250,000. Great. They that's an essential part of the revenue for the budget. You take those same hours and recalibrate those in different applications, and over the next 5 years, you'll get $3 million, not just 3 years and $250,000. You get a much bigger return on a wiser use of your time with that. So there's a part of it. There's always that tension between security and strategy. You want to have, particularly, Karen, what Infinite Giving does is allowing people to invest those assets and get that security, but it also positions you to move when there's a God moment or a rare opportunity for the organization to take a step. You have the financial resources to be able to do that instead of saying, hey, would you please hold on while I go raise that money for the next 6 months? Like, no, if you have the financial resources that are there, you're able to move very quickly and very nimbly. And donors love that. They want to see you taking action. They want to see you pursuing the vision and the mission and the excitement that comes with that. There's a sense of success that builds upon itself. And then they give more, they give more, they give more, all with a joyful heart and excitement around being that partner. That's pretty fun to watch that all unfold.
That kind of leads into the whole abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset. And we work really closely with a lot of nonprofit leaders and a lot of boards where there's always that tension, particularly in faith-based organizations or ministries where it's like, oh, money in, money out. We have to put the money to work. And then all of a sudden they're in this scarcity mindset without meaning to, where they're like living check to check. Can we get a donation in to cover over here? So the question would be, are faith-based organizations called to an abundance mindset where they're seeking sustainability? Or do you believe they're called to a scarcity mindset of service, which means more money in and money out? And for you all, particularly, which one looks like faith?
Well, there's faith and lacking wisdom or foolishness embedded in that. So, Karen, the answer is obvious there, that you're looking for sustainability and leading your organization from a position of financial strength. And we're not talking about hoarding money. There's some organizations that have an enormous balance sheet for all the wrong reasons. But that's 2% maybe at that. But there is that sense of leading. Even when I coach leaders, I invite them or I invite myself into their personal world and saying, "How's your marriage? And what's the greatest drain on your marriage? Is it coaching and being able to understand who the person is and the wiring?" And the most frequent answer is, "We're experiencing financial tension." And same way with the organization, it's a bummer for your staff to be under that financial tension all the time. And God always delivers, and all the predictable answers that come with that. But why put yourself in that constant drain? That's not healthy for the soul. It's not healthy for the organization. It's not healthy for staff retention. It drives donors away rather than inviting them into a long-term partnership. So the scarcity mindset tends to be very unhealthy over the long haul, but it is easy to overly spiritualize that. And it's a way to over spiritualize and mask that we don't really have a good donor rhythm in how to attack all this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like Brett said, that the answer is obvious, but I think the why, which Brett so helpfully laid out, is really important. I mean, there's a little bit in the scarcity mindset that goes back to the old unattributed parable about the man who dies in the flood and passes up the radio report and the helicopter and the rowboat and gets to heaven and is like, why am I here? And God's like, I sent you a radio and a helicopter and a rowboat. What are you doing here? Because he kept thinking God was going to save him. I mean, the scarcity mindset is a little bit of that. Like, what's going on here, right? I think that, what does the abundance mindset look like? And again, I want to really be careful. As somebody that was on the front lines raising money for decades and now is a funder, now gives money away professionally, I understand the stresses of this day to day and just trying to keeping the mindset in place. But what I see now, having sat on both sides of the table for a while, is that when you're working with folks that are in abundance mindset, it isn't, in the end of the day, it's about what God is doing. That's what we're coming back to. But I mean, you kind of begin to realize the order of things of what's actually going on here. Like this conversation, when I'm asking for somebody for money, this conversation's first about them and their relationship with the Lord. It's second about the people we're trying to serve and the beneficiaries. It's then about the team, like the whole, like whether that's a staff team or a volunteer team that's leading the organization. And then it's about the donor and whether they get to have this experience of seeing God do something awesome in the world, but that they get to participate in. And then, like, way down here, it's about the leader who's trying to raise the funds, right? And for me, I mean, for some folks, that's really depressing. I find that really freeing. Like, these are all the things that are happening in this conversation. And it is not about a validation of me or about our vision or about whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's about, do all of these things align for something really special to happen right now? And when people start to focus, hey, look at what's happening in a donor conversation, is all of these things are involved, right? Then it does seem to move from an abundance mindset out of that scarcity mindset.
What I'm hearing you all say is that step of faith is having an abundance mindset and really using the wisdom of the people God's putting in your life, the opportunities in your life, and then taking the funds that you have and stewarding them as wisely as possible. And I know a lot of what we do at Infinite Giving is talking to teams and saying, do you have a reserve fund? And some folks are like, well, we have money, but we haven't really thought about it. Is it a reserve or it's in the account? And then we kind of go through the steps of like, what's your operational budget? Okay, then do you have reserves? Where are they? How are they earmarked? Okay. And standard these days is 6 to 12 months of operational reserves. Everyone starts at the bottom, right? And you can slowly work your way up, but it's looking at that. And the idea of reserves from the financial, stewardship side is the idea that A, the work you're doing is sustainable. B, that you're building a healthy organization. You can pay your people, you can keep the lights on versus, hey, we launched a brand new program and is doing all this good work, but now we can't sustain it and we have to shut it down. And so it's trying to figure out what's the best way we can serve our people. And then having meeting those financial milestones is a big piece of that, right? How are we thinking
Mhm.
about with the abundance mindset? I love Brad when you were like, it's like 2% of nonprofits that are like over holding money. And we would agree, right? And even after you get past 12 months, it's like, great, is this an endowment? Is it for a special cause or a program or a future building? All of those are okay. I know we have several schools that are starting to build an endowment simply so they can supplement teacher salaries over the next few years. So when you guys think about that, and really the question is, how do you connect those financial decisions, like building reserves or potentially setting up an investment account or an endowment account to that long-term faith and really what we call vision reserves?
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
great term. Good, good, Brad.
I have a magic resource, Karen, that I say, hey, let me introduce you to Karen in Infinite Giving and let her create the big picture financial plan for you because I can do that, but you do it really well. You have the credentials and all the giftedness and all that goes with that. But giving people, particularly boards, permission to here's what we're after. In 24 months, we want to be here, 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 and here. And Thomas and I can help you develop the revenue streams to get to that point, but they have board and executive team alignment to get to that magic mark, an endowment in 5 years or whatever that turns out to be. I do find, Karen, and I think you're very helpful in this, is working through helping the executive director understand board alignment and how to get them to sign off on that. Most of the time, you can get them to sign off on the plan by answering a few simple questions and letting them work through potentially some past pains and hurts and negative experiences. But my magic solution is here's Karen's email and let her help you think this big picture plan through. Because what you guys do at Infinite Giving, pretty darn good.
Well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. And I think finding someone who can align in that is so important. And we spend a lot of time talking to boards, right? And those investment committees and other leaders. And a lot of it is just fear-based, right? It's, well, what if, or we can't take a risk. And there's always that opportunity cost risk too. It's like, great, but if you don't have it, then what happens? Right? And
Mhm.
or if it's sitting in a checking account, you're losing money to inflation. Is there a way where we can steward these funds where it's not super risky, but we can do more than what it's in the bank? And the answer is yes. Thomas, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just first off, I want to talk about the board comment that Brad raised, and of course, the one of work of infinite giving. I will say, as somebody that part of my job here is assessing grantees for grants. Reserves are a plus, just so everyone again, Brad's right. Like there are occasionally these people come across who are like, what on earth? You have more money than you could ever spend. That is a very rare application that we see, right? I mean, most of the time it's frankly kind of, hey, these people have a week or 3 weeks in the bank, and we're going that doesn't that has a negative impact on the dollar amount and even the ability to participate because we are making significant gifts and we don't want to be the only ones in the pot. We don't want to be responsible and on the hook for the whole thing. And we don't want to be the last ones. We don't want to be paying to close it down unless sometimes we come with a partner and do, but then we do that kind of knowingly, if you will. I will say also on boards, I mean, getting board buy-in is really interesting. In years of managing boards, I finally had to come to accept that I would have these wonderful, amazing people with unbelievable skills who were, I mean, especially in the financial area, who are managing hundreds of millions of dollars or more in their professional life. But when they get on the nonprofit board, they're there because they care about the work. They don't want to bring those skills. Now, some leaders are able to kind of harness them and get them to bring those skills. I was never that leader. I needed somebody like Karen. I mentioned in a conversation we had earlier that my life got dramatically better when I found someone, a resource that I could bring on the team, like Infinite Giving, like Karen and her team, that could really bring some expertise to this. And then those board members who know expertise when they see it, who know a good financial plan when they see it, became really enthusiastic and really bought in. But they're not. I was never able to get them to do it for me. But something like what Infinite Giving offers is such a huge unlock for organizations in managing those long-term reserves and coming up with a financial plan and building board confidence and donor confidence around financial plan. Because again, as a estimate that gives money away, I mean that our confidence in an organization's financial plan is an important part of our diligence and evaluation of an opportunity.
Mhm. And I
The same applies to sophisticated major givers or mature major givers. They know the right questions. Show me your balance sheet. Show me your P&L. Let's look at your 990s. Let's look at what those are really good. They're going to look and do the diagnostic. If you can get them in early and help them be a partner with you in that journey, all the better with that.
Mhm. Yeah, we've seen that too, where large donors want to have impact. All donors want to have impact, right? But then the reality is those larger gifts, they are looking for organizations who can handle those large gifts. And often how they are defining that is, are they sustainable? Will they know what to do with a large gift? We were talking to an organization the other day, and they got a large gift 5 years ago, and they are now in this deep scarcity mindset. They spent it all, they have no reserves, and they aren't sure if they're going to last. And they are trying to figure out that tension, right? Which we all have that tension of like, well, okay, well, we want to do this work, we want to deploy these funds, but if you're not doing it sustainably and with thoughtful stewardship, then you're starting to miss that boat, right? Of how do we really lead this organization well? And with boards, Thomas, to your point, they're volunteers, right? And they're there because they love the mission and they want to give back. They have full-time jobs, they have families, they're there giving and giving. And so that's something that we work with them quite closely. But it allows you to have whoever that third party is, it allows you to have consistent fiduciary oversight. You're avoiding conflict of interest. You're avoiding, right? If they have board terms and they roll off, what are you going to do? And so we have found it to be helpful, and I'm glad that you experienced that as well. I know we just have a couple more minutes, so what are the core steps for a fundraiser, CEO, executive director to take to unlock generosity? Let's end it on
I think
that.
yeah. And first off, as we wrap up, let me just say, I mean, and we've seen the list of who's on this call and are just I'm so grateful for all the work that everybody out there is doing. Y'all are doing the actual really hard work, and it's easy to sit up here and say like, hey, these are things you can think about. So I just really appreciate everybody taking the time to think about this. I would say for me, it really does come down to these two big next steps, right? One, everything we talked about the leader taking a vision and making this part of their job, part of building the movement, part of getting people excited about it, becomes fundraising becomes naturally a part of that. And two is this isn't a shameless plug, it's just a reality. Everything got better for me as an organizational leader when I got outside help. When I got real help, that made things a ton better. So Karen's team is great, but really those two steps for me were huge.
I would align with the first one as a mindset. The CEO, leader of the organization, it is an impressive list that's on this call, Thomas, and the diversity of mission. And I can only imagine the stories of how you, in your role as a leader here, got from point A to point B to this point. Cool. You get to have life impact and professional impact. Way to go. What a gift and opportunity it is for you to do this. Step number one, Karen, is that mindset of I want to recalibrate how I lead, how I establish the staff team and roles, and how I engage the board in all this. And it takes some thoughtful time. Thomas, you're right, a good coach being able to come alongside and offer insight, ask all the good questions, not necessarily to deliver a template. Here are the 6 easy steps, because there are no easy steps, but it is helping them as a leader to think through who am I, what's the organization, what's the history, what's the capacity, and to build a coaching plan for that mindset. And then number two, Karen, is making sure that the systems and processes are in place. That makes it a whole lot easier. A lot of this can be automated. Your whatever software you have can be a help or a hindrance. Some software platforms I find to be sad and not delivering all that they say they can be, but having the systems and processes, and really one of that is board alignment, that your board is in sync with all this.
Great. Well, we appreciate this so much. And just, I believe that we're at time. So we just wanted to say thank you again, Brad and Thomas. You are fabulous humans. People are lucky to have your leadership, and we appreciate you lending us some of your expertise today. And for everybody listening, thanks for doing all of that great work. And we hope that you join us next time. And just remember that we will send the replay and other resources over soon. And we'd love to connect with you if we could be helpful. Have a great day.